Good?
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to enter the cab using 3 points of contact. Parking brake applied, transmission neutral. Go ahead and get the seatbelt real quick. All right, I'm going to insert the key to the on position. There's an ABS light that comes on here, and it goes out. So just point out to him that it came on and it went off. I'm now going to fasten, tug, unfasten, and refasten my seatbelt. My seatbelt is secure. It's not frayed. It's properly secured to the cab and to the floor. My seatbelt and seat are properly adjusted for me. I'm now going to perform a safe start by depressing the clutch, covering the brake, and starting the engine. All right, starting at the highest point, my map lights and dome lights work. Coming down, my driver's side glass, front windshield, passenger side glass, and rear glass are free from any chips, cracks, or discoloration. My driver's side mirror, passenger side mirror, and my fender mirror are properly adjusted for me. As I continue to work my way down, my steering wheel has no more than 4 inches of play, 2 inches either direction. My horn is adequate and reliable. My high beams, 4 ways, left directional and right directional, are all illuminated on the dash. Since I'm already looking at my dash, I can verify that my gauges are backlit. Since I'm already looking at my gauges, I can verify a series of gauges starting here. My coolant is at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. My oil pressure is at 60 psi. My DEF is full. My battery is at 13 volts. My fuel level is full, and my air is at 100 psi. My last gauge I got to check is my tachometer. In order to do that, I have to touch my fuel pedal. It is responsive. Since I'm already touching my pedals, I'm going to touch the tension of all 3 pedals. Since I'm already looking at the floor, I can verify there's no debris on my floor. I'm now done with everything on this panel. I have 3 things I have to do on this panel, starting with the most important, releasing my hand valve. If I don't release my hand valve, I will fail all 4 of my brake tests. Next is going to be testing my windshield wipers and fluid to make sure they're operational, and they are. The wipers have the proper tension indicated by the lack of streaking. Next, going to test my AC heat and defroster on all 4 levels. Here's my AC, 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch to heat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch to the defroster, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now done with everything in front of me. Last thing I would do is verify my paperwork, but I don't need to do the video for that. Nick will make sure you're good on that. So after you do your paperwork, you're done with your in-cab. Now you just move to your brake test. So a lot of this verbiage I'm getting ready to say is stuff that you should actually say just to help you remember to do it. All right, I'm now going to move on to my brake test. My first brake test is checking for leaks. I can't check for leaks if I'm still producing air. So I'm going to turn the truck off, and I'm going to turn my key back to the on position so I can get a readout on my gauges. I'm now going to depress the service brake, press in both brake relays simultaneously, and press the brake to the floor. After my initial air loss, my air settled in at 100 psi. I shouldn't lose more than 4 psi over the next minute. Obviously, we're not going to hold it for a minute, and on the test, Mark will do your time for you and let you know when you're done. Once he tells you that you're done, don't take your foot off the brake yet, because you got to tell him that what the results are, if you passed, and how you know you passed. So once he tells you your time is up, you're just going to say, after a minute, I'm still at 100 psi, which means I didn't lose more than 4 psi over that minute. I'm now going to move to my next brake test, which is going to be fanning my brakes down. At 60 psi, my low air buzzer and light became activated. At 20 psi, both my trailer air supply and parking brake relay became activated. I'm now going to do a safe start by depressing the clutch, covering the brake, starting the engine. going to place the vehicle in the lowest forward gear, slowly coming off the clutch, applying no fuel, removing my foot away from the brake pedal, just waiting for the vehicle to torque. And a little bit more. And it did. I'm going to put it in neutral. And now I'm going to charge my air system to 100 PSI. I can do that faster by hitting my fuel up to 1400 RPMs. So the reason you did that first brake test just now was once we did that bleed down, these popped out. We pulled against them to make sure they actually set. That test though, where you put it in first and pull against it, you got to do that before the buzzer and light go off. Okay. So now we're just charging to 100 PSI. So I always tell guys when you're sitting here right now, you're almost done, but don't sit here and say, "Ooh, I'm almost done." Just sit here and think about the brake test you just performed. Because if you can keep track of the brake test you just performed, it'll tell you where to go. So we just pulled against 2 brakes, right? So from here it's 2, 1, 0. We've already pulled against 2. Next we're going to pull against 1. After that we pull against 0. So we're at 100 PSI. So I'll go back to the verbiage. You would just tell them I'm now at 100 PSI. My next brake test is my parking brake test. But in order to do that, I have to release my trailer air supply. Again, I'm going to place the vehicle in the lowest forward gear, slowly come off the clutch, applying no fuel, keeping my foot away from the brake pedal, waiting for the vehicle to torque. It did. Now I'm going to apply the service brake, release my parking brake. I'm going to slowly come off the clutch, applying no fuel, stopping the vehicle within 1 full rotation of the tires. The vehicle didn't pull to the left or the right. There was no excessive play in the parking brake, brake, sorry. Parking brake applied, transmission in neutral, pre-trip is done.